I'm Mocha.
I'm Dave.
My husband. Pet names include Swenson, Babe, Beebs, Bieber. Maybe that story will come out someday.
That's another story.
I have recently been diagnosed and being treated for dysautonomia, POTS, EDS, Nutcracker syndrome, May-Thurner syndrome, and SMAS. I just recently underwent a renal autotransplant. So it's a kidney transplant, but I was my donor. We moved my own kidney from the left side to the right. It's taken us about 9 years to get to where we are today, and almost dying leading up until my autotransplant surgery on October 6th. On the way, at some point, we decided that we would start trying to document. We kind of really sucked at it. But me dealing with fatigue and chronic illness, so the pain that goes with that, and him really trying to hold down the fort and run all of our kids everywhere. We have 5 kids, 4 are still living at home. It was really, really tough. And so we wanted to share our story. In this video, we're going to take it back and start about 12 years ago. Or no, not 12 years ago. How many years ago?
8.
8 years ago? Yeah, 8 years ago to 2012. That's why I said 12 years ago. I've always grown up playing sports. In high school, I've always been really active and healthy. Growing up, I did have some challenges and ailments that were never accurately diagnosed or just kind of brushed aside. In 2012, I became a professional triathlete, and I had worked for a couple years to reach that goal. And in the winter of 2012, after I earned my pro card, I was in Arizona at a training camp when I had my first episode of this crippling chest pain. And I was actually out on a training ride on my road bike with friends and other athletes when I thought I was having a heart attack, and I went down on the side of the road. They called 911 and I was transported to the hospital thinking I was having a heart attack. I wasn't. I wasn't having a heart attack. I was diagnosed with pleurisy. Today I don't know that that's an accurate diagnosis. I think they just didn't know what was wrong with me, and so they gave me something and sent me off out of the hospital and told me to follow up with my primary care physician. And then I think it was the spring of 2013 when we met on the side of a highway. We were both just out on a training ride by ourselves. He caught up to me.
Caught her. It's not easy.
Oh man, I was trying so hard not to let him catch me. It was supposed to be a recovery ride, and my ego was so inflated because I was in zone 2 recovering on this easy ride, blowing past all these guys on their bikes who were huffing and puffing, and then I saw him behind me and I was pedaling so hard into it. I was I'll be damned if this guy catches me. Who is this? But I'm glad he caught me.
Me too.
So we began training that summer together and riding and everything, and I was planning on moving to Colorado to train with my coach, and we were both Olympic hopefuls. He'd already taken one triathlete to the Olympics, and he was hoping to have round 2 at the Olympics, and I was hoping to have round 1. And that summer was really, really hard.
Yeah, I think that when you were in Colorado, you started to have some more chest pains and breathing issues. She was in Denver and I was here, and so she had a few spells.
Yeah.
And then I went out and visited her, and it seemed like sometimes she would be okay when we were indoors, and difficult outdoors, but it, you know, it was just kind of random. Really what started to become very concerning was that it wasn't just during exercise. Like there was cases where she started to have these really bad attacks or chest pain attacks, which we thought was she was having a heart attack or something, and I had to take her to the ER, you know, because it was so serious. Like, she was in so much pain, and every time we would go there, they would just do some tests, and she would have like a normal heart rate, you know, or normal heartbeat, I guess, and heart rhythms, and there was no
EKGs were fine, ultrasounds were fine, CTs were fine.
Everything ended up being fine. Like, eventually the pain would go away, and then we would come home, and then, you know, we would go about our lives, and like it would happen again.
We were working with the primary care physician. I stopped seeing the first one that we started going to. He, you know, had looked at me, and I gave him like my health history, my background, you know, what issues I was having, and I think this was like one of the first stops after I got home from Colorado. And he was like, "You're young, you're a professional athlete, you're healthy, you're fine." And I was like, "No, like I'm not fine. I'm very in tune with my body. I shouldn't be having these issues." And he ran some blood work, everything came back fine. And he diagnosed me with rheumatoid arthritis, because I was also having joint pain, inflammation. I was also having muscle pain though, muscle weakness, fatigue, all sorts of things. And so he sent me, or gave me a referral to go to a rheumatologist. And I remember just walking in the first time to the rheumatologist, and it was heartbreaking, it was crushing. And he went over labs and did some tests. I don't remember exactly like what diagnostic testing he did, but he told me I didn't have rheumatoid arthritis.
A lot of that surfaced in the winter, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like the fall or winter time frame. I mean, we went from basically being this professional level triathlete, and then when you started having all those joint pains, and like you could barely walk up the stairs, like you couldn't even walk up the stairs, like went from, you know, doing Olympic distance and professional competition to, you know, somebody who couldn't even walk up the stairs. That's how bad, that's how quickly it turned. And, you know, like, that's just not something that is normal, you know, for somebody who's been in really good shape, you know, and like all of a sudden just go from, you know, this level to this level, like pretty much overnight. And it was very difficult for you to move around. It was like you're in a lot of pain, a lot of joint pain, a lot of, you know, having breathing issues, just like energy issues, everything. And so, you know, that is going on. You had these random heart or random chest pain issues that were very scary. I mean, those were so scary.
Ended up having a tonsillectomy. We've had a hysterectomy. We've had who knows like how many colonoscopies and endoscopies.
Yeah, you're out on a run one day, and we ended up having a gallbladder attack, and put you in the hospital, and then ended up having a gallbladder removed. And did those girls help you out?
But they didn't give me boobs. They took my gallbladder. They took my gallbladder.
You know what? Your gallbladder was bad.
That was sexy.
You know, there's just digestive things that were going on at the time.
Barium tests, slow gastric emptying tests. I don't know, like what tests haven't I had done? There's a lot more than that.
We've chased many different things and never found any results. We thought you had endometriosis.
And they did the investigative surgery, looking and suspecting endometriosis. And they found fibroids. I had my uterus had been prolapsed. I had these windows, this laxity in the tissue of my uterus.
The uterus basically separated away from your body. It was just clinging. Could have been from childbirth, but it was just falling away from your body.
It probably wasn't from childbirth. We know that too.
That's when they decided to take out your uterus because it wasn't endometriosis, but you couldn't explain.
Yeah, so based on, and the pain kind of around that, which is also kind of falls back to what's been going on more recently, is I was recently diagnosed with something called pelvic congestion syndrome. This spring, my health just really tanked. Was having a really hard time getting out of bed. All of my, everything was just flaring, alarms were going off. My balance, my mobility, my cognitive skills, everything was just out of whack. And I looked, I had the worst stomach pain. It had just intensified. And I looked 9 months pregnant. Oh, okay, well, maybe 6 months pregnant, not 9. 6 months pregnant all of the time. And so I went into the doctor, and he immediately kind of knew what he was looking for and sent me for a CT scan. And I think at this point, it was really the first time I saw him for big issues or symptoms that I had been having. And so I went for my CT scan, and after 8-9 years of going in for all of these diagnostic tests, I took a picture in these giant scrubs that they make you wear for the CT, kind of as a joke. They were ginormous, and for whatever reason I was happy, even though I had no hope that they were going to find anything. Everything was going to come back normal, it always does. And Dave actually wasn't with me. He goes to everything normally though with me, and so I was sending him a picture, and things kind of the mood just changed so fast. And the radiologist looked at my CT scan, and he immediately sent me to another location for an ultrasound, which was I don't know.
You were really scared and called me and were really worried about what that meant and all sorts of stuff because it was just different.
Yeah, it was. So I knew they had seen something, but nobody would discuss it with me. So I went for the ultrasound, freaking out. And they immediately discovered that I had something called nutcracker syndrome. And that was kind of the first of the compressions that we had found. So after, seeing the vascular compression on the CT and ultrasound, we were actually in the pandemic had kind of just started. I'd also rapidly been losing weight and just, dying, basically. And I needed to be seen by a interventional radiologist. And there's only 2 here in the state of Utah who do the type of imaging for these particular vascular compressions that I needed to be seen by. One of them is in our insurance network and the other one is not. Though Dr. Jefferson, who is in network, our hospitals here had kind of put a pause on everything due to hospital capacity and reacting to something we'd never gone through before as, society. And so we were left with Dr. Hardman, who's fantastic, just very expensive because he's out of network. And so we had decided, we didn't know what was going to happen with the pandemic, when things were going to be open again. Doctors would start seeing patients again, procedures would be started again, everything had kind of been stopped at the hospital, all of our elective surgeries and things too. So Dave had worked with, the hospital that was not in network. He just decided, like, this is happening, we're not waiting. Like, we don't know when Dr. Jefferson is going to be seeing patients again. And he just couldn't stand by.
Nope. Wasn't going to wait around because we didn't know what was the impact of this was. I mean, one thing that we haven't really talked about is, like, during all these other like things that have gone on over the years, like your kidney function was had high markers on it. We were, this was starting to like make sense. Like, we were worried there could be more damage done. It's like a whole process. Plus, we had to go through a couple different tests because there were multiple things they could worry about or that could be causing this, and they just needed to narrow it down. And we had to do these tests in a very specific order. But you're suffering every day, and her health and her quality of life was going down very rapidly. Like, we'd have these issues every once in a while, but then all of a sudden it was like every day, like it was just drastic change in her ability to eat food or to just like, function. And that wasn't going to wait around for and have you suffer. So we did what we needed to do there.
So that was on June 2nd. That Dr. Hardman did my renal ganglion block, my nerve block, and it was a Tuesday. And I think at first, like, I remember I got to watch the whole thing. He didn't put me out for it. And just kind of fascinating because they use a CT to help like guide the needle through your back like, into the nerve, which is, I don't know, kind of fascinating and horrifying. See like this giant needle going into your back. And like afterwards, Dr. Hardman asked me, he's like, so how do you feel? Do you notice anything? I was like, I don't know yet. Like, maybe in denial? I don't know. I was just like, unsure. I don't know. It was weird. And then about 30 minutes later, I was like, let's go try and eat something. Because eating would always exacerbate my symptoms. Or I just couldn't eat. And so we were kind of trying to test it out.
You came out of there, and like within minutes of coming out of that, you were able to walk. Like your abdomen was like normal. Like it was going pretty good by the time we got from that procedure to the car.
That's right. I remember that. And I was like dancing in the car. So while we're documenting all of this, because I would never like remember all of that. Yeah. So went to eat.
Pretty much saw almost immediate results within 30 minutes of that procedure. Like an immediate response.
Yeah. So we went out to eat, and I was kind of hesitant. Like I was cautious, like pacing myself, like didn't want to overdo it, didn't want to ruin it. And then we had probably like another 45 minute drive home from where we had eaten. And like I felt so amazing. Like I had myself back. Like I was myself again.
Like to put this in perspective, like you could barely walk into the hospital. And like that's how hard it was for you to get around.
Yeah.
So tell them what you did on the way home.
On the way home?
Well, yeah, like what you started planning.
Oh, yeah. So I texted my tribe, and I was like, "We're going hiking today. Like, I just have this nerve block. I feel amazing. We're going on a hike. And I mean, having had like not been hiking in forever, it really wasn't much of a hike. But it was like, we went to Lambert Park, which has like all of these beautiful poppies in the spring, and you know, it may be 300 feet of elevation. I just couldn't do.
That's what it looks like.
Wow,
There's
shaking
a
my
long
kidney
line,
now.
I had stopped over there. My girlfriend like had her burrito she didn't finish. Like I was eating the burrito. I had a ranch bacon cheeseburger like that night, and cheese fries and soda. Like everything that I had missed, like the junk food that I had missed. I was like, I want it all now. And so, yeah, we have referred to having Tuesdays, like every time I'd have a bad day, like I would like cry, like I just want Tuesday, like I just want a Tuesday. So we kind of referred to like what will be, you know, as to what was on Tuesday. I'm pretty sure it was June 2nd. You know, and feeling like that again. The following day was like gut-wrenching. That was like so hard.
Your block wore off because it was just a diagnosis.
Like a 24-hour
procedure, right?
Yeah.
Something that would last very long.
Like just a 24-hour. It didn't even last me 24 hours.
Yeah.
And it just like, I mean, it gave me hope that, you know, like, this is actually what is wrong with me. Like, we've got it right this time, but there's still like this, you know, voice in the back of my head that was so pessimistic because I had been told so many things and they were always wrong, you know, like it really hurts your trust in your healthcare providers when they're not honest or they try to tell you what's in your head and you're crazy. And so like, I mean, having these diagnoses, like I felt really like it was like redemption. Like I felt validated and I wanted to write some really nasty letters about how stupid these other doctors, like, and tell them off and how dumb they were and, you know, how tunnel vision they are and their medical training is done like no good for anyone. And but yeah, so Wednesday was a hard day. Like really depressed Wednesday.
But then we were now on a path where we had to get an appointment with like Dr. Z, who's a transplant surgeon, right? Because that's, you know, basically the next step, you know, to look at that. And, you know, that was like another hard day because like getting on the schedule for that was like months out. And just, you know, it was so hard because it was like, now you got to deal with this for I don't know how many more months, plus you also needed to try and get some other blocks and procedures scheduled. And
a plexus block that was done, that he felt no relief from. So we were certain that it was nutcracker syndrome. And then we also had to do an additional renal venogram with contrast, and well, we actually did 2 of them.
Yeah, so the first one we identified you had a compression syndrome, and we got on Dr. Jefferson's schedule to go in and do another another venogram to see if he needed a stent placed.
Yeah.
They recommended that
for May-Thurner syndrome.
And they went in and put the stent in, and then, you know, we went through that whole process. And that, you know, we were hoping that might relieve the issues, but it didn't. You know, It basically helped with some of the congestion, but it didn't help with the major symptoms that were going on. I would say, like, the urinary condition continued to deteriorate, so it wasn't getting any better. It was actually continually getting worse. And so we ended up doing yet another renal venogram to confirm everything, because we don't want to just rush into transplant
Yeah.
surgery without making absolutely sure that that's the right thing to do. That kind of led us to the conclusion that that's what needed to be done, you know. And so I ended up getting her scheduled and ended up being on a Tuesday.
Through this journey, we've been pretty quiet and silent. Most people didn't know the extent of what we were, dealing with until really like this summer. It felt lonely, and we didn't realize just how lonely until, we started explaining and being more open about what we were dealing with and shedding some light on my chronic illnesses. I had really been following other people's journeys through social media of chronic illness, and it helped me so much to not feel alone and know that there's someone out there like me, or other people with chronic illness have had really similar feelings that I have. And
I think that we've both found like support from other people, but there isn't a lot also about how the caregiver or that supporting role, like the journey they're on, and it's a difficult journey. So we just wanted to share both sides of like our experience, and hopefully that helps people that are going through similar things, as well as people that are trying to support and help those that are going through that. We just feel like sharing our story might help.
even if like 5 people watch it, that's okay. As long as there's like one person that we're able to help or connect with, and I have a feeling it'll be a lot more.
Yeah, I'd be really surprised how many people are going through things like this or similar things like every day.
Yeah, it's really important to me to just shed light on chronic illness and what it looks like.
In my role, I felt like helpless, anyway.
Yeah.
So,
I think emotionally, physically, emotionally, we were definitely on 2 different journeys and paths, and still are. But emotionally, I do think it was harder for you. Like I couldn't watch you go through.
yeah, it's definitely difficult in a different way, for sure. And it's it's a lot. It's a challenge, and it's something that's hard to watch. Your loved one go through, and
we have met some of the most incredible people, like in the last few months, just because we were willing to share what we were going through, or they were willing to share what they were going through, and we've reached out and connected.
Yeah.
So here's to finding the light in dark, shitty places.
You're here.
Good. Love you. Take, this is 3 or 4.
Probably 5.
Me and Jay too, but it's like
Take 2.
1 o'clock thing. We're gonna do this. Amazon.
Take 2.
No, like a real one. It's legit. Fine, I'll just like,
Just keep picking your nose.
Hey. Do you remember where I was going with that? Me either.
Ish is what you're
Yes,
doing.
thank you. It like didn't. It really. Cool. Where was I? What was I saying? So we have to go retake this.